Alright guys, back out in the shop again. If you remember from just a couple days ago, we started this lathe tooling rack out of sheet metal. It's a pretty cool little sheet metal project that we've got going on here, so we might actually make this some kind of a project when we get back to school. But if you remember what we did, we sanded down some rusty steel that I had, got it pretty well cleaned up, painted on some layout fluid, and scribed in some lines that I'm going to use to make cuts, so I cut it to the right width, and then I'm going to use to make bends. So what you're going to see me doing today is cleaning up this edge, getting rid of the burr. So a combination of filing, sanding probably on my belt sander, and then maybe a little bit of hand sanding with some sandpaper, getting that edge cleaned up so it's not super sharp. And then what you'll also see is me getting this set up on my sheet metal brake to make our bends, and then potentially making these little standoffs to hold tools. Okay, so again, I'm going to switch to a time lapse so the video's not super crazy long. So sit back and enjoy, guys. Alright, so I've got the edge, this side sanded down, filed down, and really straight and smooth. I also took my file and rounded all of these sharp corners so that there's no really sharp, nasty corner there. And then I went ahead and off camera made one of the hems on my little sheet metal brake. Okay, and I'm going to show you guys how to do the other one, and then we'll do the center bend. But I just wanted to test my process and make sure that it was going to work well, and it certainly did. So the idea with this hem is to fold it over on the sheet metal brake past 90 degrees, and then I'm going to take my ball peen hammer and flatten it out the rest of the way. At school, the sheet metal brake that we have, we can actually take and put the hem back in there and kind of squish it down and finish off the hem that way. But you can also hand hammer these as well. So what I like to do, and unless I zoom way in on with the camera, I split the difference between the edge of the top die and the crease of where the sheet metal brake is going to bend, and I put my bend line right in the middle of those two edges, so that when I bend this, the 90-degree bend is right on that bend line. Past 90 there. Bring my piece out. Alright, there's the start of the hem, and then I'm going to take my ball peen hammer and hammer this over and finish off the hem. So there's two hemmed edges. We'll get this set up again on that center bend line, and we'll see how this thing looks. So there it is so far. We'll probably work on next getting these posts built, the little tool posts. Alright, so quickly here, to make these little standoffs that we're going to make, right, with the aluminum tubing and this little 1/4 inch bolt, what I need to do is I need to cut 6 of these pieces of tube at 1.25 or 1 1/4 inches long. Okay, now I know that a couple of you have seen the video on, or most of you have seen the video on how to use the dial caliper, but Hunter Sesternino had asked for a little closer up, a little more in-depth explanation of the dial caliper. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys exactly, again, how to use the dial caliper. So if we take a look at this, we have the main scale. Okay, we have the main scale right here where 0, 1, 2 whole inches are. On the main scale we have 100 thousandths of an inch, so say 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Okay, and what we're looking at when we're looking at those numbers is where this edge of the sliding part of the caliper, where that edge lines up on this main scale. So I know that I need to make these little standoffs 1 1/4 inches long, so 1.25. So the first thing that we're going to do is look 1 whole inch and then 0.2. Okay, so 1.2 so far. Then we're going to go to the dial, and we want to take this needle. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, that is 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, 0.05. I want to take the needle right to that 0.05 or 50 thousandths of an inch right there. So I am going to get it as close as I can with one hand. That's pretty close right there. So we currently have, if you read, 1 whole inch, 200 thousandths of an inch, so 1.2, and then each individual line on here, the small lines are 1/1000th of an inch. So I have 50 small lines, so 50 thousandths. So 1.2 plus 0.05 is 1.25. That's where I'm going to lock my caliper so that I can scribe a line into the tubes to cut them on my bandsaw. Alright guys, so cut all 6 of our little standoff posts, sanded them down on my little belt sander. They're not the most precise thing in the world, and that's okay for this project. I could have easily taken these pieces and set them up in the lathe and faced them off and chamfered the edges, but just as a quick prototype of this idea that I had, cutting them on the bandsaw and then sanding them down to the belt on the belt sander is going to be just fine. So they're going to stick out like this. tomorrow what we'll do is we'll drill a series of holes in the sheet metal. We're going to use a special type of bit in order to do so. And then we'll deburr those holes, get the posts on, and we'll test whether this thing actually holds my tools or not. We'll catch you later, guys.